My brain is having a really hard time connecting dots this morning and also just thinking. Please bear with me. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. Hi, my name is Liz, and in today's video we are going to be chatting about the 26 books that I want to read in 2026. I did this video last year, so I did 25 books in 2025, and if you've been following me you would know I was not successful in completing my 25 books. I will say I did get it under 10, so you know, it wasn't double digits by the end of the year, so at least there's that. But there are still a good chunk from that list that I am currently working through. So we shall see. I'm hoping I can get through those in the next month or so. May or may not happen. We don't know. I really love giving myself long-term TBR goals, and I may or may not actually accomplish them. One of my favorite things to do is create TBRs for myself. I love doing seasonal TBRs and putting a lot of thought into what kind of books and like curating a chunk of books that I want to get to that kind of fit a specific feeling or season or vibe. That is kind of what I'm doing with this one. I don't know if I will get to all 26 because obviously every year this number will keep growing, and that is a lot of books to try to whip through, especially when I have other books that I'm also trying to read. But we're just gonna be really motivated and really positive and optimistic about 2026. Already feeling like this year is off to a great start, so I'm hoping that that is a good sign. I did go through and I tried to pick a combination of books. Some are new releases that I am highly anticipating reading and getting this year. A few of them have not been published yet, but these are ones that are like at the top of my radar, so I know I'm gonna get to them. So I wanted to put a few easy ones on this list, give myself a little bit of an advantage. And then most of these are books that I currently have, because some of my goals for 2026 is to read or get through half of my physical TBR, at least the ones that I started with at the beginning of the year. Also, I'm really wanting to complete series that I am in the middle of. So I tried to take that into account when I was creating this list of books that I'm going to be sharing with you guys. I feel like I have a hair. This is what happens when you cuddle your two cat sons 24/7. And some of these books are ones I don't have just yet. I tried to put only a couple books that I don't have that I would have to actually go out and buy, but they are ones that like I ended 2025 thinking really hard about and really wanting to buy. But these are ones that I'm going to buy and read immediately, so that way they're not just like sitting on my TBR, so I don't have them just yet. Without further ado, let's go ahead and start yapping about the 26 books I want to read in 2026. Starting off, we are going to chat about the new releases, and the first one, you knew it was going to be on here, is Ballad of Falling Dragons by Sarah Parker. This comes out in a couple of months. I'm so incredibly excited. This is book 2 that comes out after When the Moon Hatched. I will be rereading the When the Moon Hatched because there's so much that happens in that book. There's so much that our characters go through. It's a very thick and chunky fantasy world. I want to make sure I have all my facts straight before going into book 2. But I am so incredibly excited about Ballad of Falling Dragons. I know as soon as it comes out, I will be going and getting it, and I will be reading it, and I will be sat, and I'm so excited. And following up with that, our second book that we will be reading in 2026 is Knave in the Moon by Rachel Gillig. This is book 2 after Night in the Moth, which is, these are probably my 2 highest anticipated books that I want to read in 2026. This fantasy world, it gave me all the vibes I was looking for. It gave me stuff I didn't know I needed. I have not stopped thinking about it since I read it, and I gave obviously both of these books that I just talked about 5 stars, so obviously I'm excited for the continuation of the series. Moving on, I would say number 3 is gonna be Hellrunner by Sarah Wolf. This is book 2 that comes out after Heavenbreaker. It is a mixture of sci-fi and fantasy, so this is something I did not know I needed until I read it. It's a new subgenre that I didn't know I ate up until I read this book. So I'm very, very excited for the continuation of this series as well. It's basically gladiators in space. What more could you want? Number 4 is gonna be Rights of the Starling by Daphne Perry. This is book 2 after Shield of Sparrows. This has to do with these monsters that are migrating across this country, and it leaves a lot of destruction and chaos in its wake. And our main character, she is thrown into this situation, this like political situation that she was not raised or prepared for, and she's just kind of learning as she goes. You get to see her try to learn how to defend herself, but not in like the annoying way where it's like you started out weak and all of a sudden you're the most powerful warrior in the land. No, she's still weak. Don't worry. It's more just like her learning how to survive, and I loved her determination. Really excited to see what happens with her story in book 2. And the final new release book is Eyes of Kings by Chloe Gong. This is the third and final book in the Flesh and False Gods trilogy. This is her Shakespearean inspired Cleopatra and Antony play that she turned into a fantasy trilogy. And I read books 1 and 2, absolutely loved them. I love this world that we're in. It's this very interesting world where people can body jump, so it's very difficult to actually die. These are just the top 5 new releases that I for sure want to get to in 2026, and will be continuing / completing a lot of my fantasy series. Moving on, we're gonna get into books that I either already own or I have some copies of or need to get the rest of the copies of. I don't know, something like that. Number 6, 7, and 8, it's gonna be the Jade City trilogy by Fonda Lee. I've heard such amazing things about this trilogy from so many people. I'm very, very excited to give it a chance and see what I think about it. These are thicker fantasy books that intimidates me a little bit, but I'm planning on buddy reading it with my coworker. So I'm hoping that will give me more motivation when I finally sit down and read these 3 books. I do have a copy of Jade Legacy, but I don't have the first 2, so I do need to go get those. But I think my coworker said I could borrow her copies. So that's great. I won't have to buy them just yet, which I probably will end up buying physical copies. This fantasy trilogy is about rival clans in this Asian-inspired metropolis. If they are wearing or touching jade, they get this like superhuman strength and ability. Sounds fascinating. I've always wanted to read Fonda Lee, so I'm really, really excited to finally pick up the series. Next, I actually do have this copy physically, and that is I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Harpman. I have heard such amazing things about this book. Also, it's a shorter one, so I feel like this one will be really fun to throw in, especially if I'm trying to whip through a lot of books. I've been really into dystopians recently, and this one is definitely scratching that itch. This is a post-apocalyptic world where this group of women is held captive in this like underground cage by these silent male guards. I believe there's some memory loss happening, so they don't know exactly how they got into this underground like bunker situation. It follows our characters when they are eventually able to escape, and they come up into this world that is empty, and they're trying to figure out what is going on. It just sounds so fascinating, and I'm really, really excited to read this book. The next book, this is one I do not have a physical copy of yet, but I am hoping to get it soon, and that is Mad Wife by Megan Church. This is a mystery thriller. It is set in like the 1950s, I believe, and it's like set in this like suburbia. And the things I've heard about this book is people say that if you've seen the movie Don't Worry Darling, it's very similar to that. So it's a lot of like questioning what is real, what is not real, kind of set in this like very Milo Murphy just fell out of their tree. Don't worry, they're fine. But it's set in this just like very picture perfect-esque community, and it's like things are not what they seem. I'm very excited. It sounds very eerie. I feel like it's gonna be very psychological, and I am here for it, especially since people say it's like Don't Worry Darling. The next book, this is actually a thriller that I have been wanting to read for so long, and that is We Used to Live Here by Marcus Kluwer, I think. This is a thriller set where this couple who does house renovations, like they will flip houses. They have this house that they're working on, and one day one of them is home, one is not, and this family shows up at the door and they say, oh, we used to live here. Can like we step in and like see what the house looks like or what's been done to it? And this person for some reason is very trusting and lets them in, and it kind of goes on a wild, crazy journey from there. It sounds like a horror movie, so it's like all my worst fears. I'm very, very excited to read this book. I feel like I've been wanting something that's like actually thrilling, especially when it comes to the horror books I read. One of the things I look for is I want to feel spooked. I haven't read a book that has given me that feeling in a very long time, so I am excited to finally get that and hopefully feel that way when I read this book. Next up, this is a more ambitious book that I am putting on here, and when I say ambitious, it's because it's a classic, and I don't read classics really. Last time I read a classic was in high school, and that was required reading. I don't go out of my way to read classics, even though I do collect them, just because I want to have a classics shelf on my bookshelf. Eventually, I want to just keep collecting cool special editions. But this is one that I actually feel like I will get to because I have motivation to read it, and that is because there is a movie coming out about this classic, and that is The Odyssey, and I have the Emily Wilson translation. I am so excited to read this and see this movie this upcoming year. I feel like this is gonna be really taking me outside of my comfort zone, and that is one of the things I like to do each year is like try to go outside my comfort zone with my reading. I feel like since the movie's coming out, I always love to read the book before seeing the movie. But I feel like with this one, I might actually accomplish that. So we shall see. I wanted to make sure I put that on my list as like an extra motivation. Next up, we have The Road to Tender Hearts by Annie Hartnett. I am so incredibly excited to read this book. I've heard nothing but good things. I feel like since I am slowly getting into more general like literary fiction, that this is gonna scratch that itch, especially if like you're a fan of like Richard Bachman and like Kevin Wilson, and who just really tug at your heartstrings. So this one is about a man who embarks on a cross-country road trip to reunite with his high school sweetheart, joined by his adult daughter, his late brother's grandchildren, and a cat who can predict death. It is filled with grief, humor, and connection. Next up, this is one that's just pure fun, and that is Tourist Season by Brynn Weaver. She wrote the Butcher and Blackbird trilogy. That whole trilogy is about serial killers falling in love. I know it sounds crazy, and I know that sounds bad, and it partly is, but also it's like them hunting other serial killers or like the worst people in society. So like this is me rationalizing eating up their romance. I don't know, and why am I rooting for them? Also don't know. This is the spin-off series of Butcher and Blackbird. You actually see the main character in this book at the very end of the third book in that trilogy. She also always has some sort of book playlist at the beginning, so let's see if that is true of this one as well. If it's not, I'm gonna be sad. There's so many pages of trigger warnings, so there is a playlist. I'm so excited. I always love to listen to the book playlists with her books, especially because I feel like her playlists are like spot on with like the vibes of the book. Next up, this is a book that I have not heard a single bad thing about. That is Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I have not read a Taylor Jenkins Reid book in many years. I have read a few of her books. So I've read Daisy Jones and the Six, Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and I've read One True Love. So those are the three that I have read by her, and I need to read another one. I know it's about astronauts, and I don't know a ton about astronauts, but I'm hoping I learned something from this one. Every person who I've heard read this book has given it 5 stars. It has very high ratings. I am very intimidated knowing that going into this one, but I'm hoping that I will have a similar experience. Hello, Murphy. Are you joining our little chat? This is why I have hairs on my face. This guy right here. Hi, why don't you go sit by your brother? That's an idea. If I didn't have hair on my face before, I definitely do now. The next book on my list is Tilt by Emma Pate, or Patty, however you say her name. I'm so sorry, I definitely butchered that. I am so excited about this one. I feel like it's gonna be a lot of just like introspective, reflecting on your life and the choices you've made, how you've gotten here, that kind of thing. This is following a pregnant woman who I believe she's at IKEA, and she's trying to buy like a crib or something for her baby when all of a sudden this huge earthquake hits and it leaves her trying to survive, and she's trying to slowly travel across the city to get to her husband after like all this chaos and destruction has happened from this earthquake. The writing is very interesting because each chapter it'll go back and forth between present, what she's dealing with, trying to get through all this wreckage, and then also it'll flip back and she's talking to her unborn child and trying to tell her story of how she was raised, her childhood, her relationship with the father, and also just how this baby came to be, and trying to teach them about her and where she came from. So I think it'll be just like a very interesting read, like a very cool blend of different things happening all at once. Next, this is a book that I can't go another year without reading it. That is going to be The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. I've heard nothing but good things. I've actually, just kidding. I've definitely heard mixed reviews on this one. A lot of people go in expecting it to be this really fast-paced mystery thriller, and it is a mystery, but it's definitely not fast-paced. It's a thicker mystery, which does concern me slightly, but I'm hoping if I go into it knowing this is a slower paced mystery, then I will hopefully be able to just savor it and enjoy it more. I tried to read it this past fall, but then I opened it up and realized, oh, this takes place at a summer camp. I don't want to be reading this in the fall. It takes place at a summer camp where a child goes missing, and I believe there's this history at this summer camp and this family that owns it that's got a lot of secrets, and they're trying to unpack that. Say less. The next book I want to read this strictly because I have heard amazing things about it. Also, it's a movie and I really want to watch that movie, but I want to read the book first, and that is The Shape of Water. This is a mixture of historical romance with like some fantasy elements as well, so I think that'll be really fun. This is set in 1962 Baltimore. It is a love story between a mute janitor and a captive amphibious creature at a secret research facility. My dad also tried to get me to watch this movie years ago, and I remember when I first heard about it, I was like, why would I want to watch that? That sounds weird. But the more I think about it, I'm like, you know what? Girl, you like fantasy. Why is that weird? It's not not weird unless you make it weird. And I was making it weird for some reason, but I definitely want to finally read this and watch that movie with him. Here I am saying, you were probably right, Dad. Next one, I heard so many funny things about this book, and I just have to be a part of that conversation. And that is The Husbands by Holly Gramazio. This is a book about a woman who goes out, has like a night at the bar with her friend, comes home, and she opens the door and there's a man standing there saying he is her husband. This man being here is kind of like, what is actually happening right now? But she quickly discovers that every time this man goes up the stairs to the attic, a new man then comes down. So she has a new husband every time he comes down the ladder, which is so funny to me. I feel like this will just be nonstop laughter. Next, this is another book that I really wanted to read last year, but I didn't get to it in time, and that is The Wedding People by Alison Espach. This I know is definitely a book that you don't want to read when you're in a bad place, because it does deal with like suicidal thoughts. Definitely look at trigger warnings before picking up this book. It is about a woman who goes to this resort and she doesn't realize that there is a wedding happening at this resort. She is thinking about, you know what I mean? When she's there, she runs into the bride of this whole wedding festivities thing, and they quickly become friends and confidants, them trying to get to know each other and also being able to talk to each other about their issues that they're having. I think it's just going to be a very deep and emotional story while also finding human connection. So I think it'll be very beautiful, and I'm very excited to get to this, even though it does deal with some heavier topics. Next up, this is an author that I've read 2 books by, and both times I read their books, I really enjoyed them. And that was Stuart Turton, and this one is The Last Murder at the End of the World. Stuart Turton does such a great job with his mystery thrillers. They are always the most immersive and mind-bending mystery thrillers. I'm always so intrigued by the concepts of these books, and I'm really excited to finally get to this one. I will say one critique I have about this author and his books is his endings are always horrible, but the rest of the book is so good. Like, I've never tried to predict or like connect the dots as much as I have in his mystery thrillers, and they always make me think, and they're always almost give me a headache from how much thought and intention went into writing his books. This one is a post-apocalyptic murder mystery set on an island where the last remnants of humanity live, and the killer must be found within 107 hours to prevent a deadly fog from destroying them all. Yeah, I'm here for it. I'm so excited. I was really hoping that there would be a map. Oh, wait. There is. I always love his maps in his books. The next book I really want to get to is Pictures of You by Emma Gray. I've had this arc for so long, and I need to read this book because it is very similar to One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Absolutely adored that book, so I really need another book like that. This one is following our main character who was just in the hospital or suffered a coma and woke up with memory loss. It turns out she was in a car accident with her husband, who has now passed away from said car accident. She is trying to piece together her past. She doesn't remember her husband. She doesn't remember getting married. All she has are her memories from her childhood and like up until like high school, I believe. So the one person she turns to is her high school best friend, and he is kind of helping her slowly piece together what happened after they graduated high school. As she's slowly piecing it together, it's becoming further and further from what she had envisioned for herself, what her life turned out to be. I know this will be very emotional. Maybe I'll cry. I don't know. You guys know how hard it is to make me cry reading a book, so we shall see. Next up, I really want to read Red Rising by Pierce Brown. This is a book that's been on my mental TBR for a very long time. I do need to go and buy a physical copy of the first book. I do actually though have books 2 and 3. I have like damaged copies of them that I got. I only have to buy the first one, thankfully. This is a sci-fi world where I hear people refer to it as like Hunger Games in space, but I've also heard people say don't listen to that because that's like later on in the series. I don't know. I actually need to reread the synopsis on this book. I do know I want to finally read it because I've heard nothing but good things about this series. It has very high praise from a lot of different individuals who read a very large range of genres. Next up, we have a romance book, and that is One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune. I know she's coming out with another new release this upcoming year, but this is her newest one before that one. I have read all of her other books, and this one, oh, they got the zoomies, clearly. I've heard nothing but good things about this book. So many people have given it 5 stars, and it takes a lot for me to give a romance book 5 stars, and her other ones have been really good. This does have a character from her very first book, Every Summer After. It's the other brother. It's his story, so I am very excited to see some glimpses of some previous characters in this one. This will probably be a summer read though, because hence the title. Next up, I really want to get to this book because there is also a movie for it, and it just seems very comical. Also, since I read read and enjoyed Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, I really want to get to this one even more because of that book, and that is Mickey 7 by Edward Ashton. So this is about a disposable crew member who gets cloned every time he dies and retains his memories. So he remembers dying. He remembers all these past lives he's had. He goes on this mission and he ends up lost, and so back at the home base they think he's dead, so they create another clone of him, but he is still alive and he shows back up, and then he has two versions of himself. Both versions of him are trying to survive at the same time. I don't know. Something about that just sounds really fun and appealing. Yeah, I know Robert Pattinson was in the movie adaptation, so I'll probably end up watching that after I read this. And the final book that I would like to get to in 2026 is Yumi and the Nightmare Painter by Brandon Sanderson. I know this is a part of his like larger universe. It's a Cosmere novel, it says, but I know that this is more of a standalone and I have not read any of his books. So I think this will be a really good one to maybe start with just to get used to his writing, just because I don't want to get intimidated by all of his other books. Or Tress in the Emerald Sea, I know is another standalone. Maybe I'll end up reading that one as well. But I'd rather read a few standalones by him before actually getting into his larger universe. Yumi has spent her entire life in strict obedience, granting her the power to summon the spirits that bestow vital aid upon her society, but she longs to be a normal person. Painter patrols the dark streets, dreaming of being a hero, a goal that has led to nothing but heartache and isolation. In their own ways, they both face the world alone. Suddenly flung together, Yumi and Painter must strive to right the wrongs in both their lives. If they cannot unravel the mystery of what brought them together before it's too late, they risk forever losing not only the bond growing between them, but the very worlds they've always struggled to protect. It sounds so good. I'm very, very excited. Got a little bit of a romance in it, so I feel like out of all of his other books, this one I might actually really enjoy. That was skill. I didn't drop a single book. This isn't all 26, but it is a lot of them. So you see how many books I'm getting off my physical TBR if I actually complete this list. That is gonna be it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed getting to see a little sneak preview into some of the books that I'm gonna try to prioritize in 2026. I'm trying to reach out to new genres, and I feel like there's a lot of just genre bending books in this list. So I'm very excited about that, and I've heard such high praise about so many of these titles. Really excited to read about them and hopefully report back to you guys. Once again, thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff. Comment down below what books you're hoping to get to in 2026, and we can yap about that in the comments. I will see you guys in my next video. Happy reading. Bye.